Hi, and welcome to the Kelly Kitley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week I have hopeful, honest, and deeply human conversations with changemakers. And today I am so excited to be speaking with Eva Pilgrim, who is the anchor of Inside Edition, was formerly with ABC News, is a mother, a wife, and a graduate of the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. And I have been fangirling, and I'm so happy to be sitting with you today to talk about your career pivot and your change from one platform to the other. And I just have to tell people, I had been fangirling from you, have been fangirling about you for years, and was so excited to be invited on GMA3 as a guest. And I flew in from Chicago, and the night I got there, I got an email that was like, almost everybody on your team, producers, executive producer, had been notified that day that they were being let go. And I was doing a segment on empowering women. And I could just feel the energy shift. But at any rate, I went on set and I met you and I gave you a big hug and a bracelet. And then it wasn't too long after that that you were no longer there either. So I found you. I've been reading about you and know where you are with Inside Edition. But I will stop talking and just say that I have been in awe of how seamlessly you made that pivot and how you are such an inspiration to a lot of women.
I'm glad it looked seamless to you. It's so funny because we are like I feel like we're friends in real life because we've actually met and we've been talking for years, like in messages. Then
Yeah.
I finally met you that day. That day was such like we weren't sure if you were going to show up to work. Like, you have to think about what just happened that like the night that you got that email. That day, everyone had all the people on our staff. I didn't get laid off, but everyone on our staff got laid off. So I I was on a shoot. I was supposed to fly back. The weather was bad. I drove back in the middle of the night to get there because I didn't want our team to not have some semblance of normalcy. I didn't want to throw another one of my on-air colleagues into the middle of that.
Okay.
It
But
felt like
you knew it was happening, or were
I
you
didn't know it was
notified at the same
happening.
time?
I found out like moments before they all found out.
Okay.
It was all like, hey, this your team is being called into a room right now. I want you to hear this happen. This is happening from me, like from one of my bosses. Like I wasn't given like a heads up this was coming. So anyhow, so that day you walk onto the set, everyone is just like frail and very vulnerable and a bit raw and kind of going through the motions. And you walked up to me and you handed me an evil eye bracelet. And I was like, you clearly believe I need this. And I think I need this too right now.
And do you
Um,
know, I brought that from Chicago before I got the news. So I
that's
was
so
planning on
crazy.
giving that to you before I found out.
It was like such a I wore that bracelet. I did not take that bracelet off. It actually broke eventually. I wore it so much.
Mhm.
It broke like right before I started this job, which I think is what's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah,
Like once it
totally.
so but right before I started this job, it broke. And I was like, well, it kept me safe through all of that. Yeah. And then this job just kind of came to me very out of the blue, unexpected. I wasn't looking. I was like trying to catch my breath about everything that was going on, figuring out like, okay, what does this mean? How do I go forward? And like, if you've ever made the pivot from being just a full-time worker to a full-time worker and a mother, you
Mhm.
know that like you like no longer recognize huge parts of yourself. I love working, I love my job, but I also was like, I can't do all of like what they expected of me, the person that they knew me as, she no longer existed. You know what I mean? And so I was drowning and didn't even realize it until the layoffs happened. And like all of these things sort of compounded on top of me, which is why I was laughing. I'm glad it looks like to you that I was like seamlessly transitioning when in reality I was like, you know, a duck with my like feet going underneath me trying to figure out how do I keep this all afloat.
Well, and from my perspective, I'm thinking, okay, your team was let go. You're still anchoring and working and on assignment and have a different team. You know, I had been pitching then to come back, and it was like, we don't even know who's in charge anymore. And so then, you know, I don't know what the timeline was, but it seemed like then you had been let go from GMA3 and then you started this job at Inside Edition. I know that's not how it went. But so you weren't looking, so you were laid off, you were
I
home.
was not laid off. So
Oh,
I was working the whole time. So
okay.
that was what was really hard about it was I was not laid off, but my staff that worked, like my producer who I worked with on every Nora, you remember
Yeah,
Nora.
yeah.
Nora did everything from with me from like sun up to sundown. Like if I was working and awake, she was working and awake. So Nora was one of the ones that was laid off. So while I wasn't directly without a job, the sanity that I had already in this sort of chaotic environment where I was overwhelmed, that now went completely away. And I was on my own
Mm-hmm.
trying to balance all of this other stuff. So then Inside Edition came to me and asked if I would be interested. And like the hours are just insane. It's like the schedule you dream of that doesn't, this job doesn't exist. And there's a reason that like Deborah Norville did it for 30 years, you know, like it really is a dream scenario. And and then the opportunity to create and do other things. Inside Edition exists like in a development unit.
Okay.
So you can create other projects that you want to work on. You have direct access to those bosses who will give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you want to work on something else. And so, and they've been very cognizant of like, okay, can you do this? Do you have time for that? What's reasonable? In a way that I've never experienced in my professional working life. But there needed to be a change for me. The thing I've realized now, because it's been almost a year that I've been
Yeah,
gone,
right, right.
is that that girl who had nothing else but work, she went away the second I had my daughter. And that girl was never going to be able to come back to the office because she now had a whole other life and other responsibilities that didn't exist before.
Mhm.
And trying to remain doing all of those things and it's not that I didn't want to work as hard. I feel like so often people are like, oh, she's become a mom, she wants to scale back. Absolutely not. I love working.
Mhm.
I love working on things I want to work on,
Mhm.
but I want to have the time to like be present and be a mom.
Sure.
Um, I struggled to get pregnant with my daughter. I prayed and prayed and prayed for her so for her to be a real life thing in my life, like I don't want to take that for granted. And I think that journey to finally her being here in our little miracle, you know, I knew I couldn't just like not and I'm not the kind of person that like I want to be great at everything. I
Yeah,
don't want to
sure.
be like a crappy mom. I want to be a great mom. I want to be
Yeah.
like baking with my mother bakes with me. Like I don't make her hot lunch every day, but like, you know, you want to like do a good job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's arguably the most important job you have is to mother someone. So I don't know. It was just one of those things where I was like, I have to make a big change. There needs to be a change where like this new role has to be something separate from that because those people are only ever going to see me this way. And that's not to say it was wrong or it didn't serve me, but it didn't serve me anymore. And I had to like clean cut, move on from it.
So you did that.
Yes. Well, with their blessing. But that's the thing that like
Okay.
I was still under contract.
Okay.
So I am very, very grateful that ABC allowed me to take this other opportunity
Well, then
to
your co-host left too. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, that's totally separate from me. I don't know
Yeah,
anything
totally.
about that.
Okay, right,
Anything
right.
about
No,
that
no, no.
situation.
Okay,
I
so
just
they gave
know for
you their
me,
blessing.
they gave me the blessing,
Okay.
allowed me to leave. None of it would have happened without them saying, yes, you can do this.
Oh,
So I'm grateful for it. And Inside Edition airs on a third of our stations are ABC affiliates. It airs on some of the ABC O&Os. So there is that parts of the audience already would have known who I was because I was part of their programming previously. So it was a good fit for me. And I think that made sense for them.
hmm
Um, I like to believe that because I was not a troublemaker and I worked hard and I was like, please, please let me have this, that was part of why they allowed it.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I feel blessed in that way.
And so you are coming up on a year when in September? August?
August 18th was my first day.
Okay.
So
And Ella's now what, 4?
she's 4.
And she's adorable from what I see
Thanks.
on social media. This little towhead. She is so
She
beautiful.
looks nothing like me. It's fine. I carried her for 9 months. She was like 8 pounds plus when she was born. Looks exactly like my husband.
But I mean, I noticed your eyes kind of well up as you talked about her being a miracle to you, and then also kind of this shift in your life professionally. And you were talking about the evil eye bracelet. Like, do you believe in a higher power? Do you have a strong spirituality? Not religion, but whatever you call it. Like, you just have such a peace about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very religious. My grandfather was a Southern Baptist preacher. I grew up like in church.
Okay.
And I do believe in God. Like, I feel like so often these days people politicize like if you're a Christian or not. I'm a Christian, it is not political. But yeah, I do. And it is a huge part of, the things about my old job. I couldn't go to church on Sunday if I wanted to. I was always working. There
Mhm.
were parts of my life that brought me a lot of like spiritual grounding and like you describe it as like peace, but also joy, like a reminder of like what joy looks like and
Mhm.
to think about joy and to look for joy. Like so much of that sort of re-stabilizing all of the things that are very core to who I personally am have been wildly beneficial for me. Who would have thought, right? Like to be able to center yourself with those types of things and family. I don't know. I get to see my family so much more now too, like
Mhm.
my mother and my sister and brother. Um, I can take a weekend trip. I couldn't do that before.
Mhm.
There's a lot of life that I wasn't getting to live because I was spending all of my time working. Um, and as much as I loved what I was doing, you know, work isn't everything.
Right,
And
right.
we are better, like more. I think I'm a better journalist because I spend time living. I have a life, I have a family. I understand
Mhm.
like how I maybe don't understand loss specifically, but I could understand what that loss could feel like, right? Because I know what there is to lose. Before I didn't really have anything to lose.
Mhm.
It's different. It
Mm.
also what like day to day looks like for most people. Like, yes, I'm dropping my daughter off at school and then rushing to the grocery store in the quiet hours of Trader Joe's. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, like every other mom out there.
Right,
It's like there's
right.
a normalcy to that rhythm that I just had never gotten to experience until this last year.
Oh my gosh. And is your family still in South Carolina?
Yes, they're all in South
Oh
Carolina.
my gosh. So that was a huge attraction too, because South Carolina was so foreign to us. And we have a son who's going to be a junior at University of South Carolina and a daughter who's going to be a freshman there. I'm trying to get a job there so I can get in-state tuition because living in Chicago, I'm like, this was not really a smart choice, you guys, but they love it. And we love it. And it just feels like a family there. We hope our other two kids go there too. Then we'll really have to move there so we can get in state.
Yeah, you have to buy an apartment.
Girl, I'm trying to, beat the system any way I can. But interesting. So mom is Korean. Is she from Korea?
Yes, and I was born in Seoul. So my
Okay.
mom's Korean, my dad's American. He's from his family is mostly in South Carolina. Um, and my grandfather and my grandmother lived in South Carolina, like when my dad was in the military. So, and then when he got out of the military, we ended up back in South Carolina. So I've always lived in these like kind of two worlds, like
Yeah.
South Korea, South
Uh-huh.
Carolina. They're like wildly different. But it works, I think.
And so, like, what is your narrative of who you are today? That's such a loaded question, but
I
like,
know. Wow. I think it's like I am both the daughter of an immigrant mother, my mother being Korean, but also I grew up an army brat. My father was gone all the time. So I understand that world as well. I mean, we moved like 4 times when I was in first grade.
oh my,
So um a huge part of my like fearlessness around strangers is because of that childhood, right? I'm never afraid to walk up to a stranger and ask them for an interview or to like immediately try to like make friends with
yeah.
someone. Um, but so that I think is a huge part of it. And then I think, the nowadays it's like the journalist in me, the curiosity.
Mhm.
Having a child reminds you like how special curiosity is, don't you think?
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
seeing the world through their eyes. But also now I think as a journalist, like you take your mom hat, you put your journalist hat back on. I have a curiosity about things that's a lot, maybe you would view it as like more simple, but it
Mhm.
is it is I think for storytelling purposes is like so much more helpful because I'm around her all the time.
Mhm.
So it's like, but why? But how? But so what did you think? Like she's like constant with the like peppering, and that for me is like this sort of reminder of the like engagement that you have with someone, that like real locked in, like desperate to know and understand that little children give you on
Mhm.
the most mundane, stupid things that you're like, stop asking me questions. But it's the like that early curiosity that just like
Yeah.
nothing can touch it,
Mhm.
has been, I think they're like two hats that go together so well. And I was surprised at how that has changed how I ask questions, how I
Mhm.
approach people, all of that.
Well, and look, I mean, you are an incredible investigative reporter. And, I think I mentioned to you when we were initially scheduled, I thought it was so serendipitous because I had talked to a producer, Meredith Reese, who had worked with you on a podcast. And then I talked to a colleague who was also a producer of yours, Ann Emerson. And they both were just like singing your praises. And, even watching you now on Inside Edition, like there are some hard journalistic stories that you're telling. And I'm curious to know. I mean, most recently, I'm thinking about the woman who's on trial after experiencing psychosis and postpartum depression. And I just think about, your podcast did so well. And um, like, how do you take care of your own mental health when you're working on some of these really hard stories?
Well, I think it's one, there is a certain amount of separation that you have to give yourself. So I'll work on stuff all day long, but we have like and I've talked about this before, we have a pretty strict rule in our house, like phones go down when we come in, we eat dinner together, no phones, no TVs, no screens. It is like old school conversation. And we try, especially while school's on school nights, no TV, no screens until Ella's in sleep, our little girl. And then like I'll pull out my phone and like catch up on anything that I've missed. But usually now it can wait till the morning. So I'll work like, you know, from the second I'm awake to the second I'm home, and then I'm done. So that separation has been a big, huge help. But also, I think because I'm a journalist, I'm like so grounded in, okay, what are the facts? What's the evidence?
Mhm.
I zero my attention there so that I don't get lost in all the emotions. There's a time for emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did an interview with a mom like a week ago, and I think I sobbed through that interview for like 3 hours. It was absolutely terrible. And she was going through something. She is going through something like just you can't even begin to imagine the nightmare she's living in. But in order to be fully available to someone, when you sit down with them for that kind of emotional conversation, you have to free yourself of it every day so that you can be present for them too, right? Like it's not just be present at home, but like I think a huge part of the way I view this job is a little bit like this is my way of connecting with other people. And it's sort of my mission in the way that I tell these stories is that I treat people with as much love and kindness and respect as I can give them when I sit down with them and they decide to talk to us. And so you have to carve out that space
Mm-hmm.
in order to be able to be supportive to them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not about you. It's not about what you questions you ask. It's about their story and making sure that their story is told in the best way, and that they're emotionally okay and that they're feeling supported during an interview. And so you can't do that if you allow yourself to get lost in the emotions of these stories every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that I hold on to the facts like they're like my lifeline day to day. And then like, okay, emotionally we have to prepare ourselves for this.
Right. Well, and it's similar to being a therapist, I mean, if I take on everybody's story, that I do have a ritual when I start a session and when I end a session so that, I am kind of clearing space for the next person I'm seeing. And so that I'm not taking that home to my family, so I think
Right.
it is an active practice, no matter what job you're in, so
Right.
that there is some separation and it doesn't all bleed together.
Yeah. But I mean, just like you would for your clients, like you want to give them the best of yourself in that moment
Yeah.
for whatever it is that they need. And I think, when people sit down with the media, they need something. There's a transaction that's happening there. They need something out of you. They wouldn't be so vulnerable if they didn't need to get something out of it. So you need to make sure you hold that space for that
Mhm.
and that they're able to get what they need out of it. And
Mm.
I'm always like very clear with people, okay, like what are your things that you need? Like you need this told this way, this told that way. And, they don't get to write the stories, but there are, you know, a lot of these families, when they sit down and talk to us, are looking for some sort of activism to like raise awareness,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
that's the stuff that we can do for them well if we give them the space to do it.
Mm. Do you ever give back to the University of South Carolina in terms of like coming in and doing a seminar, or because I'm like they have such an incredible journalism program and I'm like, oh my gosh, those students would eat you up if it was like even
So
for a
I've
quick
been
seminar.
back. I've been back a few times. I'll just usually like pop in because I'm like there covering a story or something. I used to
Okay.
just like text my old professor who runs the senior semester there, where they like put on a newscast every day.
Uh-huh.
And so I would like pop by and say hi. A couple times we've spoken in front of the class. I was on the campaign trail once. I dragged like everyone on our team there. Nora, my old producer, she's been. And it's nice because like there's sort of all age groups in our teams. So Nora was younger than me, more close to like recently graduating college. So they had a lot of like specifically navigating early career questions for her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a campaign in bed with us when I was on the campaign trail, also closer in age to them. The producer who was producing me is older than I am. So it's sort of like
Oh, I
runs
love
the
that.
gamut.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And she also went to South Carolina. So that was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where's Nora now?
Nora has a new job working. I'll just say she works in finance. That's the
Okay,
easiest way.
great. And what industry is your husband in?
um, so funny people ask tech, I would call it, I guess. He does all kinds of stuff. He does like AI, he does trust and safety, he
Okay.
does, yeah, but
Very
that
different from what you do.
totally different
Okay.
from what I do. We barely talk about work at home, the two of us.
Oh my God.
Occasionally, he'll tell me something that's going on at work for him, and then I'll, if there's a story that's really in my head that I can't quite get right, I'll
Yeah.
like ask him about what he thinks of something, but we barely talk about work at home.
Oh, that is a really good boundary.
Well, you have a 4-year-old, they totally manipulate the conversation. You know what I mean? Like they maximize. It's
Right,
all
right, right, right.
we talk a lot about like poop and what are you going to eat.
And how did you and your husband meet?
We met at a friend's wedding.
Oh, I love that.
So it was very just random. I was newly out of a bad relationship breakup. He was not on the list of eligible bachelors there. No one thought he would like settle down and get married. And then here
And
we
you
are,
do. You
all
changed
these years
that.
later. Yeah.
Oh, well, the last question I want to ask you is relevant to a lot of women our age in their 40s who are, looking at life and saying, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing professionally? Do I want to pivot? Is it a forced pivot? Um, and a common thread that I hear is fear and uncertainty and anxiety about what that looks like. And, when I look at the transition that you made and stepping into somebody's shoes who had been doing that job that you're doing for 30 years, I thought I would have imposter syndrome. And again, seamlessly, obviously you don't show us your deep feelings and emotions. You just show up and you do your job. But what was that like for you? And what can you say to women who might be having that fear?
I mean, none of us, I mean, some of us are, but I certainly am not. And I think like when you are going through something really hard, you're not like, most of us aren't taking the time to like pull out our phones and record ourselves like sobbing in tears. There were a lot of tears, um, mourning the end of ABC, the fear of leaving there. I grew up there as a network correspondent.
Yeah.
It was safe for me. Um, I thought I was going to retire there. You know what I mean? Like people respected me there. I knew they respected me. I knew they trusted me. If I left, I was going to have to start over. And that was actually something so many people said to me, like, oh, you're not going to leave. You don't want to start over somewhere else. And I realized about myself was I was either going to stay where I was and struggle, not doing my best
Hmm.
work in any capacity, not being the best mom I could be, or I was going to take this big leap, pray that it was going to be okay, and trust that the young girl who fought her way to get to network was going to be able to figure out a way to keep her head above water someplace else and hold on to the lessons that I had learned and believe that I was going to be okay. And the reality was once I got done crying about it all and scared out of my mind, I was like, all right, let's do this. And it was fine.
Mm.
You walk into the next chapter of your life with like so much more confidence, I think. Um, Also, like you birth the baby. There are very few things in life that are that physically hard, right? So,
Hmm.
and I survived postpartum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So remember that little nugget
Like
for any of the moms listening.
we are tougher than we realize.
Mhm.
And when it comes to our families, like we always figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I've yet to meet a mom that like I really believe it's like becomes a superpower for you because I know I can do it. I did this, I did that. Like I have done more by 8 a.m. than most people do all day long because I'm running around like a crazy woman and still trying to get my job done. So it just is like, it's this reframing that I think we have to have for ourselves that it's not that it's not scary. It's not that it couldn't go wrong. It's
Mhm.
that you're the differentiator and you were good where you were, you're going to be great where you're going, and they might appreciate you more there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're not going to be this like ghost of yourself past anymore. Like, I think there's a reason so many women in their 40s make that shift, like me included, is
Yeah.
because we're not the same young girl that came into a place.
Sure.
You know, our lives have changed, our jobs should change with it. And like, quite honestly, like your job workload isn't going to change. So the only way that you can change it is to change where you are working,
Sure.
what you are doing. But like, you work 8 hours a day. If it's absolutely miserable and hard and terrible and causing you great headache, the job market might be tough, but you got to look, you know,
Yeah.
and you got to believe in yourself, because I also believe we set the example for our children. Like,
Hmm.
if
Absolutely.
it's not serving you, you got to move on. You just do.
Hmm. Well, I'm so happy you said yes to this job and congratulations on almost
Thanks.
1 year. You are welcome. And I'll keep cheering you on from the sidelines. And certainly next
Thanks for
time
the evil eye bracelet. It protected me.
I love symbolism. And it was a thank you, and gosh, I'm still there still isn't a regular GMA3 crew that's
No, it's a, it's all part of GMA. So anyone who works on GMA can end up on that show.
uh-huh. So to be continued.
Yeah. I wish them I'm like I said, nothing but the best.
Of
Forever,
course.
ever grateful that they let
Yeah.
me do
Yeah.
this, and lots to come.
Well, and it's a hard industry, I mean, you worked your way up and, I mean, there's something to be said about never giving up and just having that grit and resilience and hustle and, until that's not working for you anymore. And
Yeah.
that's what I want people to feel empowered to be able to say or raise their hand and say, I need something different, and that's okay.
Yeah. No, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I also think I've told a lot of people this. It is perfectly okay to like cry and be scared and to mourn the loss of and the death kind of who that person was, and be terrified of what this person ahead of you is going to look like.
Mhm.
But there's something really exciting about getting to shape that yourself and choose. And like, we get to decide when it's time to move on.
Mhm.
Um, it's even if you don't get to decide that it's time to move on, if it's decided for you,
Mhm.
like, these things work out the way they're supposed to for whatever reason.
Mhm.
I do believe that. Maybe that's the religious part of me, but I do believe like everything happens for a reason, and the light always finds you.
Well, and the thing that I think that I see happened that I call a God wink, in the role that you're in, that it did end up working out this way.
Oh, so perfectly timed. Like, I couldn't, I couldn't believe it. And like, all the things that I have a lot of things in my head that like people haven't gotten to see yet, and projects that we're working on. And
Mm.
hopefully they all happen flawlessly. But it, if you had told me a year ago at this point, which would have been like as I was wrapping up my time at ABC, that this is what my life would look like, I would have been way less scared. I would have been much more excited.
Mhm.
And I didn't have the bandwidth to dream like that, because so much of my energy was used on just staying above water, keeping my head above
Yeah.
water. And to look back at it all, you're like, golly, the stuff that we've done in a year that nobody knows about yet, it's like, this is so much fun.
I can't
Um,
wait. I cannot
yeah,
wait for it to be revealed.
we'll see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today,
It's
and
always good to see you.
great to see you too. And for all of the listeners, just a gentle reminder to be the change you wish to see in the world, whether that starts within your family, your community, or the world. Thank you so much for listening.